Hi guys and welcome. I am Enigmius and this is episode 7 of the Builder's Guide to Feed the Beast. Now today, getting a little bit crazy. The last episode was kind of relaxed, just do a little bit of a tour, talk about a few things. Today we're getting right down into the meat of it, and we're actually probably going to have to break it up into more than one episode just because there's so much to cover, which is not to say it's complicated, it's just so cool. We can't fit it all in 20 minutes. What we're doing is we're looking at how to duplicate roughly the energy cell, the Minecraft jewel factory that I've got in the basement of my facility. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because it's not just how to fill up the redstone energy cells, it's how to get access to a very substantial quantity of lava without having to worry about rail systems and piping from the nether and portals and stuff like that, which is, it's all well and good. I don't have anything at all against those methods of doing it. I just don't think it's practical for everyone. So this is basically a way that you can just kind of hop through your portal into the nether, grab a bunch of nether rack, come back, feed it to a bunch of magma crucibles, and it gets turned into lava that you then feed into, if you want, your geothermal generators so that you can power as much as you feel like gathering nether rack, really. I mean, when I was setting up stuff in the nether in a previous series, I had 26 geothermal generators going, and it let me run force fields, it let me charge quantum armor. It was fine. It was absolutely fine. So we're getting that infrastructure in place, access to lava if you want it. And whether you're planning on sticking with geothermal or not, I've been talking about, considering moving to solar power for you guys because it's just an easier alternative, or a lower maintenance alternative, I should say. There's still a lot of use. A lot of different machines want Minecraft jewels in order to run, and having a factory where you can set up Minecraft jewels and then dispense them throughout your facilities quickly and easily is just flipping awesome. So that's what we're going to be ending up doing. So to get things started, we actually have to talk about the tanks that store the liquids. Now you've got two options, really. One is you can use like the old school tanks, like these, that you stack them up vertically and then they merge into one vertical tank. So I've actually got the equivalent of two tanks here. They don't merge sideways, they only merge vertically. Each tank holds the equivalent of 16 buckets of fluid, whether it's oil or fuel or lava, water, whatever. 16 buckets per tank. And to make them is actually very, very straightforward. Tank. This is the recipe, is just 8 glass like that, and a crafting grid makes one tank. That's one option. The other option is the tanks like I have in my facilities for the creosote oil, the lava, and the water, the iron tanks, which is a railcraft addition. And I'm going to show you how to make those now because I just showed you how to make the glass tanks. If that's all you want, then you're good to go. So this is the one machine that you'll need from railcraft in order to make those tanks. And this is a rolling machine, which you can see here. It has a 3x3 crafting grid in the machine, and then an output indicator and an output slot. And this here is showing you how much energy you have stored up in the machine itself. Now this runs on Minecraft Jewels, which is why I've got this magmatic engine on top of it. And I believe, yeah, it's got enough fuel that we can get this done. I'm actually only going to do one run through this just to illustrate sort of how this works. Now, this thing works a little bit different from other machines. Most machines, you put in the materials and they just go. This one, because it's half machine and half crafting table, is a little bit different. So you put in the materials. The materials for the iron plates that we need is 9 iron ingots laid out the way you see here. But you'll see it's not doing anything with them. If I were to put in another 9 iron ingots, it would make one batch, and then it would leave these ones here. And the reason for that is if you're doing like a very large quantity, like people will often have to do if they're making rails, is you can just shift-click materials back into the grid to keep making more and more of them without having to lay out the materials again. Now, it's obviously not a complicated recipe with ingots, but when we start looking at railroad tracks and things of that nature, they tend to be a little bit more complicated. They're like rows and stuff. The long story short is that if you only want to make one batch, you have to click on this here, and that will tell it to go. You can see using up energy, progress bar, and there you go. It's done, made 8. If you put in, say, enough materials to do 8 batches to make a full stack of iron plates, it will make 7 batches, And then you will have to come back and click here again to have it make the 8th. So the last batch, you always have to basically make it do manually, or you can just add 1 to the amount of materials, 1 batch worth when you set it up so that you get the amount that you're looking for. Either way, that's just the one thing I wanted to point out to you, is that it's a little bit odd in that you can put stuff in and it doesn't go and you're wondering why. Just click that guy. That's all you need to do. So I've got so many iron plates now. But it's used in recipes other than just the tank gauges, so I'm going to hang on to them and maybe they'll come in handy someday. Next thing we need to do is actually take these iron plates and turn them into the different components for the tanks. And they're not really expensive. We just have to look at it. So we can look at the iron tank wall. And this is the basic building block. You have to do the corner pillars and like the borders of the tank with these, and then once you've got that, you can fill in the inside of the walls with whatever you want, gauges or valves or whatever. But 4 of those plates makes 4 iron tank walls. Another way to do it, if you want to get into the math a little bit, is for 9 iron ingots, you'll get 8 iron tank walls. So it's fairly reasonable conversion. It's not, ridiculously expensive to make these. It just depends on the size of the tank that you want to make. For the iron tank gauges, basically the windows in the tank, it's 4 of the iron plates and 5 glass panes. Glass panes are just made with the glass blocks, smelted sand. 6 of them make 16 glass panes. And then you combine them together, you get your iron tank gauges. And for the valves, you will need valves for your tank, unless you plan on feeding everything manually with buckets. Is just a lever, which is cobblestone and a stick. Very, very basic recipe. The 4 plates and 4 iron bars. Iron bars are 6 iron ingots to make 16 iron bars. So you can make a lot of tank valves with 1 batch of iron bars. Gives you 4. So those are the 3 components that go into making the tanks. And now we can come down here. Hopefully the sun is going to stay up for a little while longer. Please. Yeah, there he is. So this is my creosote tank. You guys have seen this. I showed that to you in the last episode, I believe. You can see here I've got 1 valve here. And in there you can also see just barely peeking up the top of the liquid is the other valve. This is the valve where the creosote oil goes into. I've got my little choo-choo train there that always seems to stop for no good reason. And when it's got creosote oil in it, it stops here and unloads it through that valve into the tank. And then over here, if I ever decide that I've got a use for the creosote oil in any quantity, I can hook up pipes to it and pump it out wherever I want. It doesn't really matter. The key is when you're wanting to drain a tank with pipes or whatever, sending it to different places, the valve has to be in one of the bottom 2 layers of the tank. So you can see there's the bottom layer and there's the second layer, so I'm still good. That should work and allow me to drain the entire tank. As far as putting liquids into the tank, it can be anywhere except for the perimeter, like the corners, the edges, like that. As long as it's on one of the walls, it should be fine. I've never tried it on the perimeter, so I'm saying try it if you want, but don't be surprised if it doesn't work. So there's 2 things about tanks that you should know. One is if you decide that for whatever reason you want to destroy the contents of the tank without having to dismantle the whole tank. Let's say you're like, I don't have any use for creosote oil. I never will have use for creosote oil, but I could really use this tank to store water for something. Rather than having to break down the entire tank, you can just break the bottom middle blocks. So in this case, the easiest way to do that, we would dig down like this, and it's a 5x5 tank. So we need to go 3 in, and oh, we got transparent world. 3 that way. Apparently, by breaking this block, all the liquid would be drained out of the tank and destroyed, and then you could just replace it and fill it with whatever you want. I've never tried it. Just know that there is a way to basically empty the tank and destroy the contents, and if you really need to know what it is and breaking that block doesn't work, look on the wiki, because I don't break my tanks like that. That's basically all you really need to know. Now, we discussed the dimensions in the last episode. The tanks can be just their ground dimensions, like if you're looking down from the top, 3x3, 5x5, or 7x7, and the height can be 4 to 8 blocks high. And basically that leaves you enough creativity that you can sort of custom make your tanks based on the storage and space requirements that you've got. For me, like I say, this I made early and I didn't want to spend any more on iron just for creosote oil. But for my lava and my water, I built the biggest tanks possible because go big or go home. So that's building the tanks. Now I want to just take a look downstairs, a closer look at how I've got everything set up with the magma crucibles and the, well, in my case, it's the redstone conduit, but in your case, to start out, it'll be probably magmatic engines. And then we'll come back up here and we'll talk about materials to make it all happen and recipes and things of that nature. I should have just fallen off. That would have been much faster. So here we are. This is my setup, and I really tempted to gush all over thermal expansion because whoever is behind this mod came up with some really, really great innovations on the way machines are configured. And this is a magma crucible, obviously. This is the energy bar, shows you how much Minecraft joules they have stored. This is your raw materials that you're converting into something else. In this case, netherrack converts into lava. This is showing you that you've got power, I believe. I forget. You see this moving up and down, but it doesn't really seem to sort of coincide with anything, so I'll just pretend like I know what it is, even though I don't. This is your progress bar, fills up with lava when it's, you know, gets to the right side. Basic stuff. This is the storage, the internal storage for the tank. It'll hold up to 10 buckets of liquid, depending on what you're making. But the really, really cool thing about these is this configuration option here. Now, normally you'll open it and it'll have a window similar to this. It'll tell you how much energy is going into it. You've got the redstone control that eliminates the need to have a switch or a torch beside it to make it run. You've got, although I should say, once red power gets added, I will be putting a lot of my stuff on cables so that I don't have to do them each individually. But for now, I like that option, that if something would normally need a redstone torch or a switch to make it work, I can just configure it through here and turn it on and off without having to place that torch or switch. Here is the configuration. And what you've got is basically, this represents the front of the machine. And if you look, it's got like the little grate in the front. It looks exactly like the front of the machine. And then you've got each of these squares around it that represent the different sides. So this is the top, this is the left side, the bottom, the right side, and the back of the machine. Then you've got these colored squares that represent, they basically coincide with color-coded things here within the machine. So this is blue, and you can see here it's coinciding with this input slot for the raw materials. You can see here I've got pipes feeding netherrack from this chest into the left-hand side of the machines, where this says it will accept input and put it into that blue slot. You can change that. You can say, I also want to be able to do receive from the top slot or the bottom slot or whatever. You can cycle it around, do whatever you want. But then where this really kind of came in handy is, this is the output, right? This is the internal storage. But if you have it connected to an output, you know, a viable output, whether it's a pipe or a container, it will automatically pump the liquid from this storage out. And in this case, I've got it set to go out the back. This bottom right-hand corner is the back of the machine. So each one of these magma crucibles is in front of a valve, a tank valve, one of these guys, so that as they're running and making lava with the netherrack, each one is individually pumping its contents into the tank automatically. I don't have to have pipes. I don't have to have engines. I love it. And I just love the fact that you can configure it based on what you want. If I had the tank on the right side, I could configure it so the lava would go out the right side. It doesn't matter. So that's definitely something that you'll see in all of the thermal expansion machines that I've used to date. And knowing how to use it and get use out of it is just awesome. It's fantastic. So you can see again, I've got feeding netherrack from the chest. Ugly, ugly system, but it's adequate for now. And then I've got this redstone conduit, and this is taking the Minecraft joules from my factory and powering the magma crucibles without having to have an engine directly in front of each one of these machines. In your case, when you're setting this up, however magma crucibles you decide to run with, you will have a magmatic engine beside each one. In addition to that, you'll need a way to get the lava to that magmatic engine, and I'm going to show you how to make gold waterproof pipes so that you can set that up for yourself. And then once you get everything up and running and your magma crucibles are producing lava, they will be dumping it into your tank, and then you can pull the lava out with a wooden waterproof pipe into the gold waterproof pipe around to the magmatic engines so that they keep powering the magma crucibles, which continue making lava. And because of the way the math works out, you're producing more lava than you're using. So that's how you get the surplus. And in this case, I'm just using redstone engines, the really cheap ones that don't overheat and don't require fuel, just to keep the pipes full of liquid. I would recommend that. I've got 3, and it's basically it has no trouble at all keeping the pipes full and fueling all of the engines in my factory. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's basically what we need to finish getting this set up. We need magmatic engines, we need magma crucibles, and we need the gold waterproof pipes to connect it all together. So we're going to get upstairs, take a look at that. Now, ironically, the first thing we make before the engines or the magma crucibles or the pipes is a tool. One of these, a wrench. Now, I believe this is the Buildcraft wrench. I don't think it's specific to thermal expansion, but your electric rechargeable wrench will not substitute for this one. It just doesn't work on the engines or the machine blocks. So this is the one that you're looking for, and it's not expensive to make. It's 3 iron ingots and a stone gear, which is made out of a wood gear with cobblestone, and the wood gear is made out of the sticks, right? So it's not expensive or difficult to make, and the nice thing about it is it doesn't wear out. It doesn't have a durability. So once you make it, unless you lose it, it's yours forever, which I like. Now, the reason why you need this is if you want to reorient machines or engines, once you've placed them, this is the tool that you do it with. And as well, magmatic engines have a tendency to overheat and lock up. And the way to get them started again is to bap them with this wrench. You just right-click them, and you'll be able to carry on using them. And I think I'm going to intentionally try to overheat this engine. 1, to waste more lava so I can get these tanks out of here. And 2, just so that I can be absolutely certain you guys are clear on what I mean by overheating engines locked up and how to fix them. So the first thing we want to make, I guess we'll go with the magma crucible, because it's oh, and I forgot the netherrack. Didn't I? Yes, I did. I'm such a jerk. Basically, the magma crucible is sort of the heart of this operation, and is used also in making the molten redstone that we'll be using later on to charge or to finish the crafting process for the redstone energy cells and the conduits. So first thing we'll do is we'll make the magma crucible, and it's not really expensive. You make a bucket, right? 3 iron ingots or 3 tin ingots. It's, you know, buckets are buckets. Nether brick, I'll show you how to make that actually momentarily. Copper ingot, I didn't mean to click on that. 2 copper ingots, the redstone reception coil, 2 redstone and a gold ingot. Again, not really complicated. The machine frame, when it comes to thermal expansion machine blocks, you'll be making a lot of these. I think pretty much every machine uses a machine frame. And again, it's 4 glass, 4 iron ingots, and a gold ingot. Not expensive at all. The nether brick, if you have not yet found a nether fortress for yourself, you can make nether brick in a compressor just by taking 3 nether rack and feeding it in. And you know what? I think the only way I can do this right is to go grab my nether rack and show you. So now if you're still using the tier 1 compressor that we made earlier in the series, this will be a little bit slower for you. Very, very soon, probably right after we do the redstone energy cell bit, we'll be talking about upgrading to the tier 2. But you can see 3 nether rack gets converted to 1 nether brick. So it's not at all complicated or difficult. In my case, it just happens much faster because I've got the tier 2 machine that's fully charged. So you can do that. 2 nether brick for every magma crucible that you want to make is not difficult at all. And that's it. That's how you make your magma crucible. So it's very, very easy recipe, not particularly expensive, doesn't require advanced materials or glowstone or anything like that. And then it's just up to you to decide how many you want to keep an eye on. In my case, 6 seems to be working fairly well. If you want to start with 1 or 2 or 3, then that's what you start with. You can always expand later. So then that brings us to the magmatic engines, which is 3 tin, the redstone transmission coil, which is a silver ingot and 2 redstone. You'll see this a lot, is the transmission coils and the reception coils and things like that that are redstone and an ingot. And then you've got the tin gears, right, which is 4 tin ingots around a stone gear. Stone gear is 4 cobblestone around a wood gear. And the piston, 3 planks, 4 cobblestone, an iron ingot, and a redstone makes a piston. and that's your magmatic engine. Now the piping actually takes a little bit more than that. It's not hard. I hope you like cactus, because we're going to be using... Well, let me put it to you this way. Cactus is the accessible way if you don't want to get into beekeeping. If you like beekeeping, beeswax makes pretty decent waterproofing. It's actually a substitute for the waterproofing that you get from cactus. But if you don't want to get into the bee bit, you won't have beeswax. So keep that in mind. In order to make the waterproofing, the pipe waterproofing from cactus, I'll just show you on one here. There's a cactus. You first take it to a furnace, of all things. You feed it through the furnace and you get cactus green, which is actually also a dye, if you were wondering. You can use that in recipes where it gives you the option to dye things different colors. And then you put it in your crafting grid. Don't have to do anything with the machine. You get pipe waterproof. Now, in order to make the gold waterproof pipes, we take... I can never remember exactly what the recipe is, so I'm just going to grab enough for either way. And this guy. So we're going to try it this way first. Ha! I won. 2 gold ingots and a glass makes 8 gold transport pipes. But I've already got way more gold transport pipes than I'm ever going to use. So we'll pretend that I just made those. So we got 8 gold transport pipes. And then you take however many transport pipes you want and however many 1 per 1, right? Pipe waterproof per 1 pipe makes a golden waterproof pipe. And all this basically means is instead of, you know, moving individual items and dry goods, you can now pump liquids through it. If you don't have the waterproof pipes, you can't pump liquids through it. And the same thing goes for, where is it? Now I've got gold in there. You can see I've got wooden waterproof pipe. Wooden transport pipe is the same concept in the recipe. Instead of gold ingots, you will use wooden planks. We go like this. Let's get the crafting table open. With the glass, gets your wooden transport pipe. Pretty much all of the Buildcraft pipes follow the same formula, is glass in the middle and then the material on the outside. So that should be pretty straightforward. But once you've made the wooden transport pipe, you want to waterproof it, same as with the gold, right? So they're pretty formulaic, and I didn't want to do that. Doesn't matter. So again, this is what you'll need. This is always the first block that you need when you're pumping liquid out of like a storage device, like a tank. It always has to be a wooden waterproof pipe. And then after that, you can use whatever you want. Gold, stone waterproof pipe. It doesn't matter. As long as it's waterproof, it'll continue to carry it. Pretty much all of the Buildcraft stuff, when you're pumping something out of like a chest or a tank, you have to have the engines connected to the wooden pipe. And then you can transition to whatever other kind of pipe you want to use. That's the general rule of thumb. There's a reason why I don't particularly favor Buildcraft pipes. But that's, as far as liquids go, it's actually probably about as good as you can get, I hate to say. So that basically puts us in a position now where you've got a tank, you've got magma crucibles hooked up to the tank, you've got magmatic engines hooked up to the magma crucibles, and you know, see, this is what it looks like when it's overheated. I'm glad I remembered to check this. So you can see it's cooling off on its own. It'll actually cool off on its own if you leave it long enough, but you can see the piston is halfway down and it's smoking. So the way to get it going again is bap it with the wrench and it keeps going. So that's basically, you know, add to your repertoire of things that you know how to handle. So you've got the crucibles, you've got the engines, you know how to maintain the engines, you know how to feed the engines. You're going to be setting up the redstone engines. I think I showed you that, didn't I? Basically, it's the same concept as the magmatic engine, only cheaper. Right? Wood blocks, glass, wooden things, piston. So redstone engine is just cheap, maintenance-free, to pump the lava out of the tank and back around to your magmatic engines. And then all you need to do is keep feeding them netherrack. You can do it with an automated system like I had, or you can do it by hand if you really want to. Once you get it going, and you get the lava accumulated to the point where you're not worried about running out of lava for your magmatic engines, that's when you can start pumping it off as well to your geothermal generators. And in the next episode, that's when we're going to start talking about the redstone energy cells and how to get those set up there. It's a fairly involved crafting process. It's actually kind of fun. But we're going to get that taken care of. We're going to set up the factory, and you should be feeling pretty comfortable with piping and engines and different machines by then. So if you're looking forward to that, but you're not subscribed to my channel yet, the best way to know when I uploaded it is to subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, thanks for watching, guys, and take care.